Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you are tuned into the review of Married at First Sight, Season 14, The Reunion, Part 2. So before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be the first to find out when I post these videos. All right, let's jump in. We are finally done with the Boston season. This week was the second part of the reunion episode. They're already geared up to start, I believe, San Diego in a few weeks or maybe next month. So they are keeping this thing going. Like every week there's something. I think next week it's a Where Are They Now? And then they kind of go into a bunch of other stuff. I won't be doing any reviews on any of that stuff. I'll just start fresh with the next season. And I think a lot of you by now also know that they have two new experts joining the cast. Dr. Viviana is moving on. And they have two new experts. So that will be interesting to watch and just see how things change. And this is the first time on the West Coast. So looking forward to that. Today is also my 5-year anniversary. If you guys watch the channel, then you know that I bring my husband on a couple of times throughout the season to give his perspective. And today's our 5-year anniversary. So with that being said, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I'm just going to jump in because I have given my all to season 14. So a few things that I wanted to touch on. They kind of wrapped it up with, I think Kevin Frazier actually did a really good job. He usually does a great job, but I really liked this reunion. I thought the way that they kind of did it felt more, I don't know, it felt more like familial, but it also felt like more intentional. And they were like doing things that I think, really looking at it would have been really helpful throughout the season. The way that the experts were sitting there and talking to the couples and helping challenge some of their thoughts or some of the things that weren't working out, offering their perspective. Like, honestly, that needs to happen like every 2 weeks with the couples throughout the process. It felt like too little too late, So I enjoyed seeing Kevin talk to the women, talk to the guys, and also talk to the experts, and then everybody together, the couples together, and also the experts with the couples. I will say this is the first season that the women felt more catty. Like, I think off the rip, at the beginning of the season, you can tell that they genuinely had some issues there. And usually we don't really see that. Like, everybody kind of gets along, or there might be a hiccup here or there. But I felt like this was the first season and I could tell that they really had some issues with each other. No surprise there. We had Lindsay this season. We also had Alyssa this season. I mean, for a hot minute, but we had her nonetheless. So that was interesting. I will say this, it felt catty. It just felt really catty. And you could just tell that some of this animosity is still very present, even though they say they're in a group chat and they talk every day. Like, some of it is very present. And, I mean, that sucks. I mean, you really would hope that this would kind of give them a communal togetherness, because they are very few of them who understand this whole experience. So that was something that I was like, okay, I'm bored with that. Alyssa is not a good person, and it's laughable that she keeps saying that. I didn't even want to touch on her last episode, but I do want to say that she is a prime example of what happens when people don't hold you accountable and you don't hold yourself accountable, and you shy away or make excuses for your behavior. So I think Kevin could have gone in a little bit hard on Alyssa. I for sure would have, had I had the opportunity. But she has her tears. She does the crocodile tears. She kind of even says, if you even have to say, I was going to come out here with the intention of, not being ganged up on or whatever, you kind of know that people are having issues. And in order to avoid having to be accountable, you set these boundaries in order just not to have to say, hey, I was wrong. Hey, I didn't say these things. I mean, there's tons of footage of where she's just a real nasty piece of work. And she still circles around and says, I'm a good person. Very avoidant, says that she's here for the right reason. She said a bunch of times that she was essentially bamboozled. I like that Dr. Pepper said, no, we didn't put these words in your mouth. We gave you what you asked for. I like that they were pushing her and saying, you have to be accountable for what you signed up for and how this is going to continue to play in your life. This thing that she does is going to continue to show up everywhere she goes. The only thing I really didn't like about the whole Alyssa thing is that they just didn't hold her accountable enough. Because if they would have really run the footage and asked her to say, okay, let's not try to avoid, she probably would have got up and left. So I just hate that Chris had that experience, because that really took away his ability to see if he could match with someone that was a decent person, which he was not. So that's unfortunate, but that is Alyssa and Chris. Michael and Jasmina. Jasmine is just not attracted to him, because let's be real, we all have been a fool for somebody that we are attracted to. Probably not the best person, but we've made the effort. At minimum, she would have made the effort if she was attracted to him. She was not attracted to him, and then they didn't get along well. They didn't talk the first month. So there's really nothing to even go off of. And she said something, I'm not going to repeat it, but you guys said, well, if you watch this season, you'll remember where she said, if my something doesn't get something, then, well, that really told us how she felt at that time. I'm not attracted to you, therefore you don't turn me on. And so there can't be much further that we go with that. Also, I would say, yes, we call Jasmina the Ice Queen, and lots of people have lots of opinions on her. I think I look at people obviously in a very layered way, but I also think that Mike really isn't prepared for what he thinks he's prepared for as well. They both have a lot of trauma, but Mike is really reserved. Beyond Jasmina and her, presentation, hearing that Mike didn't call her, didn't text her, didn't have try to have conversation, never really told her she was beautiful, never gave her a compliment. I mean, there's just some basic stuff that he is just missing as a guy. Like, as a guy who wants to, get the attention of a particular woman, whoever that is, but in this case, it's obviously Jasmina, and really get out of the friend zone. A lot of people were saying, well, she set up a certain space for him not to be able to do that. I get that he couldn't have done particular things, but it's basic to say, hey, you look beautiful today. Hearing her say he never said that. When they, after the experiment, when they went back to their homes, he showed up once, but he never really called her. And he didn't say that, yes, I called you so many times, or yes, I sent you messages. I mean, that's kind of lame as well. I just think they're two people who are truly unprepared, but I think they can be. I don't think they're so far gone that they can't be. And I think that they, if they want it and they do the work, then they will be able to be good for somebody else. But I think they're missing the mark on what for me is basic stuff. Even with Jasmina and saying communication, when they were talking this week, Michael started talking. After Jasmina had already said her piece, Michael started talking. She jumps in. Essentially, she cuts him off. And then he tries to jump back in, and she says, I'm still talking. But you cut him off. And I wish that they would have, because if I were there, it was so clear to me, I would have been like, okay, 1 second, he was talking, you jumped in and you cut him off. And now, so she doesn't have good communication at all as well. So they're a little bit of a hot mess. Not a lot, but a little bit of a hot mess. And I hope that they kind of figure out what they need and move forward soon, but not right now. Because I think sometimes a lot of these casts will say, well, I'm ready for someone else. It didn't work out with this person, but let's figure out why it didn't work out. It's not necessarily just the other person. Because moving on to Lindsay and Mark, one of the things that Pastor Cal said was, you both are responsible for essentially the demise of this relationship. It's not just one-sided. I've said Mark has his issues. I don't think Mark is perfect by any means. Mark, he constrains his responses. He's not very giving emotionally. True indeed, he did not feel safe with Lindsay, but I feel like Mark is he's a little lackluster too. I think he's a little behind the beat in the song with romance or anything, because even when they were in a good space, he seemed kind of timid. So there's stuff to work on. He does have a whole lot of family stuff and some dysfunction and even grief going on. So there's things to work on. But I think I think Lindsay really showed just how horrendous she was. Lindsay shows a lot of the thing that has happened to her, not the role that she played as a part of it, or the role that she may have played to prompt it. And so but I said this from day one when we had the whole airplane thing with Elijah one. I said, she is someone who struggles to take accountability. It's never how she plays a part. It's rarely how she plays a part. And if it is, it's something so minuscule. And then it goes back to why this person had to get this response from her because they did this thing. And she gets really nasty really quick. She is typical hurt people. And but she gets really, really nasty, and she validates, and she does things in a way that is meant to circle back and say, well, I did this, not genuinely. The fact that she struggled to apologize when it was so blatant, the fact that they had to do a group, like, come on, girl, say sorry. Like, Mark is better than me, because the moment she hesitated, especially with the spit thing, had spit possibly landed, I mean, that is a level of disrespect that, like, a lot of things can happen from that. If somebody just does that, spits on you, like, a lot of things can go south, reasonably so, if somebody does such a detestable thing. So to see him so hurt, to see him just so like triggered, and you can tell, like, when he says he's been bullied, there's like an inner child that shows up in his space, in his face, when he's in an aggressive situation, because we've seen it the whole situation with Lindsay, and we also see it when he's talking about it. And for him to show up that way, and for her to still be apprehensive about an apology and still dance around it. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. When we saw at the bowling alley all the nasty stuff she said, it's not I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry I said that. Like, take accountability for your actions, because it's still wiggling out of an actual apology. It's I'm sorry you feel that way. It's a slap in the face. Her saying that, she doesn't feel bad for him because she feels he's disingenuous. Well, you look at her and there's such rage in her eyes, and you never know what's happening behind the scenes. So we can only base this on what we have seen. However, if we backtrack to the bowling alley, when he kind of said, listen, I don't like that you're being so aggressive and doing this, it kind of puts me in a bad space. And she goes to the bathroom and she dogs him out. She's saying she was venting, but listen, when you are married, even venting, you have to be careful about that, because there still needs to be some boundaries, a line you won't cross, a level of respect. There was none of that. And she dogged him out at the very beginning. So I don't want to hear that, oh, okay, well, maybe my experiences in these last 8 weeks and then some makes me think that he's disingenuous, because you've always been presenting in a very nasty way. So that was really hard to watch. I hate that everybody had to not everybody, but people had to kind of prompt her to apologize. I would have been like, forget it. If you hesitate and you feel like you don't have to, and you're dancing around these 2 apologies, forget it. I really wish that Mark would have held her accountable in saying, hey, please, I wish my husband just walked in, so I'm thrown off, but I wish that Mark would have said something. You can see that something is wrong, and he's still not saying anything. And maybe in that moment he couldn't say something. But we've also seen Mark throughout the season kind of not show up for himself and not say things when he wanted to say things, and be apprehensive and be withholding. So that's something that he's going to have to work on, because it's going to continue to show up. Next, we have Steve and Noi. Steve and Noi seem to be doing pretty well. I mean, I think that they're the couple, like I said, I've said it a million times, that are the most organic, that feel the most natural. And they have stuff that they're working on. They're clearly over the hoops. They seem to be very comfortable. There isn't really much going on. Nothing that I remember anyways. When they asked the ladies, who thinks that Noi and Steve are going to be the first to have a baby, they all raised their hands, including Noi. It feels organic. It feels nice. And that if they continue to do therapy like they said they're doing, to continue to get to know each other and kind of build a strong foundation, that they can really have a fighting chance, because we do have some couples on the show that have been together a long time. So that is Stephen Noy. Last but not least, we have Katina and Elijah. So here's how I want to end Katina and Elijah, because I saw so many comments about Elijah and how we don't, we as in y'all don't believe that he's made the change and, bringing up other stuff. I get why a lot of people are saying that. But the thing that rings for me is we can't complain. Well, I'll start with this. One, we didn't see everything. We have not seen everything. This is filmed at a particular time many months ago. Then the after show and the reunion is filmed much later. And there's a lot of things that we don't really know. We can only go based off of what we've seen. So with that being said, we can only speak for what we have seen and leave room for the possibility of what we don't know that could possibly be. And that's why I'm saying, or said in the last reunion episode, that if he has made these changes and he's taking accountability, then that's great. Because human nature is often, in these situations, we'll complain about the things that we don't like about a person. And I say this because part of doing this reviews is letting people see themselves in a way where, hey, let's take the train wreck off of the TV and bring it into our real lives. Like, a lot of times we're watching this stuff and we're mimicking these things in relationships and we don't realize, but we can point the finger and we can't really take accountability for ourselves. So a lot of times in real relationships, we will say, I don't like this about this person, or this person does this, or I wish they would do differently, or all these things. For example, this person never calls me. I always call to check on them. They never call me. They don't care. And then one day they call you and you pick up and it's like, hey, how are you? Just wanted to check on you. Oh, they probably want something. What do they need? We kind of pigeonhole people in our lives based on what we know about them. And it's hard to let them grow. And a lot of people do this. We do this with family members. We do this with spouses. It's why your spouse can say something and you don't even hear it anymore, but somebody else says it and it's like, wow, or they notice it and it's like, wow. It's because you have put these blinders on as to who you think your person is or family member is or whatever the case may be. We can dog Elijah out, rightfully so, based on what we saw throughout the season. But also, if he changes, if he's trying to change, then we have to give him room to do that as well. And he might be able to do that. If you do something 366 days, let's say we haven't worked out for a year and day 360, did I say 366? If we do something 365 days for a year and then day 366, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna start today. I'm gonna work out today. And you work out today, people have to give you the chance to say, hey, I'm now working out. I'm now being healthy. It starts with one day. And if you give yourself one day and then the next day and then the next day, you can make that change and can experience that change. And some people will still choose to say, you've been working out for a year now, oh, that person doesn't work out. They didn't work out for the whole year, missing all of these changes that you've made. So it's really important whether he's changing or not. That's for Katina to know, because that's her husband and their relationship. But it just made me think, as I was reading the comments, I totally get that it's not believable and there's reasons to validate why it may not be believable. But also, don't allow yourself to pigeonhole people and yourselves because you've come to expect what is, and then just don't believe that anything could be different. Even when the person is telling you, hey, I see it and I need to make changes because I didn't like that. We've all, I'd hope, have that experience where we say, you know what, the way I showed up, if you're lucky enough to be able to see it in a different way, the way I show up is not really reflective of who I am or who I want to be. So I want to make that change. And everybody should be given the opportunity to make that change. So that's my 2 cents on Katina and Elijah. I hope they're doing well. I don't know where they are, but we are going to see where they are now next week on next week's episode. So anyways, that's it. That's my 2 cents. Thank you so much, you guys, for watching this season. Of course, let me know what you thought. Comments. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and I will see you guys next season. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.